and there's all kinds of things going on. It looks like Oregon and Washington will go to the Big Ten. We don't know who's going to the Big 12. Could be Arizona, could be Arizona State, could be Arizona State, Arizona, and Utah. We don't know what's happening right now with, of course, Cal and Stanford. It's just meltdown Friday here on college sports. So if you got some questions, let's go for it. I know that plenty of you guys do, and we will see what's going on. So you want to join me, just hit me up and we will talk about it. Let's begin with the big news, which last night it looked like Arizona was headed to the Big 12, and the Board of Regents voted, and the Big 12 gave Arizona the okay to come aboard, but they didn't join. And Arizona State, it looked like for a while there today, things were going to be okay. The Pac was actually going to make it. Well, that happened until this morning, when it looks like what happened was that we got a situation where Oregon, who had been holding up the Big Ten for more money to get for travel, seemingly got that money during a conference call when they were about to vote on the grant of rights to stay with the Pac. So that cracked things up, and things went totally crazy. So at this moment, it looks like Oregon and Washington, according to The Athletic, are going to be moving from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten in 2024. Okay, that leaves Arizona State. It leaves Cal, it leaves Stanford, Oregon State, and Washington State, and Utah, all in the in the Pac-12. Just got a text from some folks that in Utah who are wondering what's going on with that situation, and also Arizona and Arizona State. Now, again, Arizona has been invited to the Big 12. So should they wish to, they can accept that invitation. I know that the Board of Regents in the state of Arizona would like everyone to stay there, and we will see how that works out at this point, but in time. But we don't know. We don't know what's going on there. There will likely be some meetings throughout the day. It's early out there, so there's a 3-hour time difference. So we'll get to know what's going on from that standpoint. So let's see what goes on here in that time frame. Now, we know that Utah is in a situation where they could make the move. Brett McMurphy from the Action Network is reporting that suddenly the Big 12 has decided to ponder what they want to do. So does that mean that they want to try to get Arizona State and Utah, but get them on the cheap? Could be. Does that mean they want to I can't possibly see under any circumstances that Stanford and Cal's going to do that. Hey, Oregon State's chance of going to the Big 12? A vlogger, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. I wish it were, because I think Oregon State is a good team, and certainly worth it. But you got to have someplace to go, right? And at this point in time, we don't know what's going to happen to Arizona State. We don't know what's happening to Utah. We don't happen to Stanford or Cal. So we don't know. I think that it would be a good add to the Big 12, but I don't know from that standpoint. How would you feel about them staying what if Utah, Arizona State, Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, and Washington State, basically it's the 6 or 7 remaining teams, stayed there, backfilled, and got some Mountain West and AC teams? Would you feel that that'd be a good add for for your team, for Oregon State, because I mean Oregon State's going to have Oregon State's the dark horse this year to perhaps even win the conference. So I do understand why you would want to see them do that. I mean, the best thing for Oregon State, for them to win the conference, it would be very difficult for the Big 12 to overlook that fact. So maybe let's see what goes on. Because again, like I said, I think what do you think your chances are of winning the conference this year? I think it's much better than a lot of teams, including USC. I think Oregon State could be the dark horse there. Get a sip of water there. So we'll see what's going on, Volger. So absolutely, let's see what they can do, right? Hopefully they'll come aboard. So let's see if we can get something here. We got a quick look at what's going on. Brett McMurphy, as I said, Oregon, Washington is joining the Big Ten, becoming the latest schools to leave the Pac-12. Sources have told the Action Network. Bob Thompson is reporting that it's time for the Big Ten to do a redo of those 24 and 25 football schedules, which would be true at this point in time. So let's also see what else is going on. Simon Wilson is asking that he says that talk is cheap. He believes that when they succeed, will laugh as FSU loses $100 million. Well, there's always good to know that there's some people out there that like Schadenfreude. Okay, so let's see. Let's go on with Rex. Hey, Rex. Okay. Washington State or Oregon to the Big 12. Don't know right now, Rex. Could be any of them, could be none of them. Mark Landau, what do you got for me, Mark? Okay, not so fast. Big 12 conference is looking at 3 schools on the cheap. Let's see what happens. Quick, guys, let's poison this oil. Tristan McGoggle. Tristan, thanks for coming over. Brand new, stable, friendly conference. Okay, you say so. I have no reason to doubt you on that one. Karma, that's a good one, Kristen. Absolutely, 100% karma. It is karma. Okay, Cactus Stan. Hey, what's up, Cactus? Let's see what you got. It could be over for the Pac-12. That's possible, yeah. We'll see. Certainly we'll know by this afternoon what's going on. Expansions crush. What you got, buddy? UConn, ASU are the question. That's true. They are in question. What you got for me there, Mark? Maybe shopping to the HCC Tier 2, Louisville Pitt, for example. Maybe, yeah, I mean, I see what you're talking about, but they got to break that grain of rice, bud, and that's not going to be easy. Matthew, what you got for me, buddy? Matthew, amazing to see the worst case scenario at UConn happens every single time. Big Ten, UConn, plausible? No, unlikely. Let's see. FSU has already found a legal way out of our grant of rights. Governor has pledged to support it. I don't, well, I mean, I'm not sure that he's found the way out, but we'll see. Lucky Ute. Great job waiting, Utah. Holy hell. They screwed up this badly. Well, we'll see. We'll see, Lucky Ute. We will see. I don't think anybody's leaving at this point, but we'll see. Okay. Michael, what you got for me? I prefer UConn over ASU in the Big 12 and only want Utah for the Holy War. Okay, Michael. That's interesting. Honestly, Vlogger, I think Oregon State wins. Everyone is overlooking them. I do. I agree with you, Vlogger. I think that people are overlooking how good, Oregon State is. And Michael, UConn is a good university, and it would get the Big 12 into the New York market. And I think that's something that Brett Yormark has definitely wanted. So 100%, I think that would be a good get for them. The Holy War, man, I know how much people really want that in Utah, and BYU would that would make a. I think it's probably one of the 5 most intense rivalries in college sports. So Michael, I agree with you 100%, buddy. Vlogger, you know what? I think Oregon State. I don't understand it. I mean, Oregon State is a fine institution and really a good. Year in and year out, they play competitive sports, not just in football, but in pretty much every sport. So I don't understand why why Oregon State is not as well thought of at this point in time. But you know what? Things can change, and we'll see how that works. Let's see what we got on Honestly Objective. You clearly have no idea what's going on. They're not poor, just broke ground for a $100 million facility. I'm not quite sure who he's talking about here. Anyway, okay. The cost of being proactive is Stephen Hatcher talking about Arizona. Arizona deserves a bonus over the rest. Not sure that's true there, Andy, but okay, fair enough. Fog, what do you got for me, buddy? Not so fast. You still thinking? Fog's like a bunch of people saying that Arizona State and Utah should be made to be waiting. Cruise planner, what do you got there for me? Arizona State and Utah can stay behind. They might enjoy the independence of the Mountain West Conference. Okay, well, that's pretty strong. Eric Waddell, what do you got for me, buddy? Sounds like that didn't happen. I think he's talking about the ability for the Pac-12 to stay together. Let's see. Talk is cheap, Simon Wilson. He believes that when they succeed, he will laugh as FSU loses $100 million. I don't think they're going to lose that, but we'll see. Wheelchair Mafia, how you doing there, guy? They've already been given an invite, so of course Utah is going to go to the Big 12. Stop with the conspiracy theories. He thinks they're headed to the Big 12. Okay, we'll see. Let's see what else we got from our chat room. Michael prefers UConn over ASU. Again, Michael, it's an interesting thing. I've been on UConn. I think they're a good team, and they deserve a Power 5 distinction. Whether they get it over ASU, I don't know. We'll have to check that out and see. That's all very, very fluid at this point in time. Let's see what else we got on our message board here, guys. Let's see. Calvin might decide to look to the Pacific Northwest for a couple of teams, particularly given ASU and Utah's reticence. Who knows? Crazy time. So Calvin actually is with you on this, on Oregon and Oregon State. Hey, Adam, how you doing? Was there a Pac-12 vote on the media deal today? Adam, what I understand is this, okay? I understand that they were voting. You have to vote on the grant of rights first, okay? Once you vote on the grant of rights, then you listen to the media deal. Okay, so the pitch is, okay, so you're right. I'm sorry, I've got it backwards. You vote on the media deal first, saying, okay, are these the guys we're going to give our media rights to? And no, there wasn't. During the vote, hey, Greg, how you doing, buddy? What's about Wazoo? We've been talking about Oregon State and Washington State, and they're good quality programs. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. Adam, let me finish Adam's question. My understanding was that during the vote this morning, as they were voting, there was Oregon asked for a pause to be placed in the vote. They paused the vote. Oregon received a phone call. At that phone call, the phone call was telling them from the Big Ten that the differential, which last night caused the problem, meaning that what the problem was, it was Oregon wanted more money. They didn't think that the Big Ten offer was fair enough because it would not cover all of the costs of travel. So Oregon kind of bailed on the Big Ten last night. So evidently early this morning, they received that. So we'll have to see, what exactly happened there. But Oregon backed out of the deal or chose not to vote. It would be a fairer statement. They chose not to vote because they then accepted the deal for the Big Ten. Now, my understanding is that not all of the deal has been finalized yet. So we'll have to see whether everybody's accepting and what the devil in the details are. So there's still stuff that can be done here. Things could still fall apart. We don't know. It's way too early to pop the champagne just yet. How cheap can the Big 12 get Arizona State, Arizona, and Utah for? Well, the deal with Fox, okay, is for them to pay what it basically is $30 million. What is it? It's $11 million. So let's say that ASU and Utah, because ESPN is kicking in 33%. So basically, that would mean, give or take, if Fox chose not to do anything, meaning not give ASU or Utah any money in the deal, and it's not Fox giving, it's the Big 12 giving the money because your grant of rights go to the conference. So let's say the Big 12 chooses not to ask for more money. That would mean that ASU and Utah would be getting $20 million, while Arizona would be getting, because they were granted a full share, they would get 31.7 million per year. Arizona State and Utah would be getting 20 million if they choose to go that route, because that's the deal that is offered for being offered to any any Power 5 team that joins the conference. ESPN has granted a pro rata deal of 20 million. Okay, so it's 20 million would be the least amount of money that ASU and Utah would get. So I hope that explained it. Would the Pac expand if they survive? Well, first of all, yeah, they would have to. A conference has to be more than a conference is 6. Okay, so 6 is a conference. So yeah, you would have to expand. My guess is they would have to expand by at least 4 and maybe 6. So yeah, there's a lot of going on in that regard. Or now this is a possibility too. They could, and this might be good for those of you Wazoo fans and Washington fans. They could potentially go ahead. Well, actually, Apple, by the way, Michael, was willing to give everybody $25 million, okay, per year. So they would actually be making more had they stayed in the conference than they would. So that's why Arizona State and Utah have not yet. First of all, they have not yet applied to the Big 12 for to become members, and so we don't even know if they are. So let's say for the moment, just Michael and Adam, you guys have brought up some good points, and you too, Greg, about where do we go from here. And if you're Wazoo and if you're Oregon State and if you're some of these teams, you may say, wait a minute, all right, fine, let's take a breath, let's stay here for 5 years, okay? Because a lot can happen in 5 years. maybe we can make our Apple deal, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and let's see what we can do. Okay, so I would say that it might be worth, um, you know, Adam, to your point, it might be worth staying, expanding, and surviving another 5 to 6 years. Now that would give Wazoo and Oregon State, and Stanford and Cal, Arizona State and Utah, a good situation. Now remember, they keep the autonomy five, so they're still a Power Five conference, which means they get an automatic bid. So you've got at least one automatic bid to the playoffs. So that's something I think you have to consider. So is the Apple deal off the table? The Apple deal is only off the table. My understanding is the Apple deal remains on the table, but it might have to be renegotiated with Oregon and Washington out. Okay, so it might there's that possibility, Michael. Being honest, I don't know whether or not. Now, if you're Apple, right? I think that Apple would still stay there because Apple wants in college sports, and certainly even with Oregon and Washington gone, you still have Stanford, you still have Cal, you still have Arizona State, you still have Utah, you still have Washington State and Oregon State. You still have brands that will attract people. So 100%, I think that they would. And then of course you'd be adding schools. So let's see, I would say that I think Apple would stay. Is Apple the only partner? To the best of my knowledge, yes, at this point. There might be somebody. Now, here's the other thing, Adam. They might, because of what happened, right? They might be able to. Entice an Ion TV or a CW or somebody like that to get in to the deal for reasonably inexpensive deal. So they could very much live as an autonomy 5 Power 5 conference without Oregon and Washington, okay, and for that matter without Arizona. So it's possible, okay. All of this is possible, and especially for those of you, like I said, Wazoo and Oregon State, you definitely want to be in on that deal. So I've spoken to people at Utah today. They're not ready to jump. Nor is Arizona State. So we'll have to see. Is the contract unequal revenue, or is that not known? Well, there wasn't a grant of rights signed, Adam. So there wouldn't be that at the moment. The CW has the ACC right, but if you think about it, they also have the Xfinity series. Okay, so let's play this out for just a second, Adam. Let's say that that the CW could do a ACC game at noon. They could do a Xfinity race at 3, and then at 7. We're talking about Eastern times. At 7, which would be 4 o'clock out on the West Coast, they could do a Pac-12 game, right? So that I could see where CW and Apple would play together on this deal and work that out. Same thing with Ion. So there's ways to do it that would be advantageous for the CW, and you could have for the CW, they'd have an entire day of sports, okay? Or they could, like I said, they could maybe, let's say the Xfinity race is out on the West Coast, right? So you've got a CW game at an ACC game at noon. You've got a 3 o'clock game for which would be a noon game for the Pac-12, and then you've got an Xfinity race that takes you into the evening. So there's many different variations there on all of that. And Apple, of course, is not dedicated to any times. What you got, Michael? Michael, if Arizona State, and Utah do go to the Big 12, what happens to Stanford and Cal? That's a good question. Right now, there's been talk that they might be invited to the Big Ten, but the problem is who's got the money, right? Where's the money coming from to add Stanford and Cal, even at a reduced rate? And as we saw, the reduced rate that Oregon and Washington got almost cost, almost wasn't enough for Washington. I'm sorry, for Cal. Wasn't enough for Oregon. There you go. Wasn't enough for Oregon. They had to boost that a bit. So I don't know where the money's coming from. So if that happens, if those three go and you go, that would leave you Stanford, Cal, Wazoo, all that. Mountain West, hopefully, Michael, but doubtful. That's taken a lot of money that, a big loss. I think that what might happen there is I could see Stanford and Cal. If Stanford and Cal is the last one standing, if it's just Stanford, Cal, Wazoo, and Oregon State, Stanford and Cal would probably go at least independent for a while. I mean, they could do that. So we could see. Do you see any G5 conference expanding if nothing changes? Yeah, I mean, well, they've all expanded to some extent. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. I do think that Oregon State, Washington State would be really, spectacular for the Mountain West. But man, there'd be such a downgrade in cash that there would unfortunately have to be some serious cuts to the other sports, which is unfortunate from that standpoint, to be sure. So 100%, would they do it? Yeah, I can see that happening. Is it going to be one of those things where it's going to cost money for a long time? 100%, yeah, it's going to cost you. It's a big downgrade to what the Mountain West gets versus what even the Pac gets right now. So that's definitely something that we'd have to look at. Let's go back to some more Twitter questions. Let's see. Okay. Still the Arizona thing is still talking. We've got what does it mean for Stanford? A lot of people. I still think Stanford could go independent from that standpoint for you on APW. BYU tracker. A lot of BYU fans are hoping that perhaps that Utah does not make it into the Big 12. Okay, Ken Rhodes, what you got for me? Okay. He likes the idea of giving them the cold shoulder. Seems to be a trend coming here. Okay. Let's see. The Arizona border regions would have a fit if they were to go down. The Arizona border regions, that's an interesting thing, guys. The Arizona border regions wants people to stay together, the two Arizona schools. So there might be pressure on Arizona State to try to get into the Big 12, even if they may end up getting less money. Michael, you have a question. What is it? I do not see how Pac can expand based on their Apple money versus buyout versus money. It's a good point. Is it the same deal from Tuesday? No, actually, Apple sweetened the deal a bit, Michael. From what I understand, they went to 24.5 to $25 million, basically. That was a base, and then there's incentives. So even if you just took the base, that would still be a reasonable amount of money. So it wasn't a bad deal. the buyouts for the G5s, the buyouts for the G5s would be $17 million ish, maybe $18 million ish. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be up to them. That was going to be voted on today. You're correct, both guys. It was going to be voted on today. Yeah, I reported that it was 25-ish million. So what Apple did is they boosted it. And by the way, guys, let's go back to that Apple deal. There were 5 or 6 scenarios on there that Apple had. So it wasn't just one option. There were a bunch of different options there. And you know, the one option was the highest amount option, one for the 25 million, was that they got all the rights to everything, and they would consider simulcasting with a partner, a linear partner like a Fox or CW or someone else, as long as they, meaning Apple, received the ability to hold all of the rights. So that would have meant that Apple would have streamed all of the games, even if they were on linear TV, which is basically the same deal they have with the MLS, where they can stream games while at the same time, you know, Fox does a game. It happened the other night, if you were watching. Washington was playing against Philadelphia. That was a game that was on FS1. It was also streamed on Apple. Okay, the deal from Tuesday needed 12 schools and still remain. I'm not quite sure, Michael. Adam, I'm sorry. The deal from Tuesday needed 12 schools. Actually, no, it didn't. Needed 12 schools and down, they still remain. It needed, well, there's only 9 because Colorado left. So they needed 7 votes to pass it. So, I mean, so 9 people were left. Colorado left. USC doesn't get a vote. UCLA doesn't get a vote. So they weren't at 12, they were at 9. And they needed 7 because this is super majority to get the bill, to get the Bill of Grant of Rights passed. So that was the number. You know, if Arizona, and let's see, if it's Oregon and Washington are gone, and even if Arizona is gone, so that takes you down, you know, from 9 to 6. And 6 is what you need to keep a conference, like we said before, so they'd have to backfill. At least, my guess is to at least 4. So, yeah, I know that was reported. So, it's 9. I mean, those were the only 9 schools left, and 7 out of 9 had to vote. So, I'm not sure that perhaps I'm not understanding your question. Okay, because I'm trying to read it and I'm just getting some glare here, so I might not be. Let's see. Okay, the deal was from Tuesday. Okay. Oh, to get the money now. All right. Yeah, I think that Adam, you know, we're going to have to find out where the conference is. I mean, right now we don't know, right? We know that Arizona's been offered the opportunity to move to the Big 12. Okay, we know that. We know that both Oregon and Washington have been offered the move to the Big 12. I'm sorry, to the Big 10. We know that we don't know that Arizona has accepted it, okay, because they haven't yet. We don't know that Oregon and Washington have accepted yet. They've been invited. So let's assume for the moment that they all 3 do go. So that's going to be 6. So does Arizona State and Utah go? And if so, are they going to get a full share of the Big 12 money, or are they going to get invited at $20 million per year per school? Okay. Or do they sit back and take a couple of days and revisit an Apple deal to find out if staying at the Pac would be good and help out, obviously, Stanford, Cal, Washington State, Oregon State, and the other people in the conference. So this story is far from ended yet. Okay, and remember that unless everybody leaves in the Pac, unless they go down below 6, the Pac-12, at least for the next couple years, is an autonomous Power 5 conference. So that would mean, as I said, in 2025, 2024, would SDSU have to pay a full exit fee? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that they could probably negotiate that down. It's going to take them a year to negotiate it down. But remember, it was 34 million. If you take 34 million, they wanted to get out for 17. It's probably going to cost them $20 million to get out of that deal, ish. Maybe 29, maybe 20, maybe 19. It's not going to be 17. It's going to be north of 17. So, Adam, it's going to take more than that to get them out of that deal. So, if SCU, SMU leaving the AAU conference, the American Athletic Conference, probably is going to get. I mean, they may go the AAU. That means AAC. I'm sorry, the AAC deal, because it may be cheaper for a lot of those teams to come west than it is for San Diego State to get out of the Mountain West. I mean, that's a serious amount of money for San Diego State to have to pay. So we'll see. Let's see what we got here. Back on our boards here. If they get 25 million each team, that's incredible. The Pac would be perfectly okay. Well, that obviously that's something that we have seen. Okay, so that's not there. What do we got here? Bob Dooley, he's one of those guys who thinks that Utah and Arizona State should be discounted. So he's not cutting anybody any slack here. What you got, Shadow? Hold it 14. Okay. A lot of Pac, a lot of the Big 12 guys want just to stay at 14. They may. I don't know. We'll have to see. I think it's more likely that ASU, I'm sorry, and are left to wait. Let's add Arizona. Boy, I'll tell you what, guys, the Big 12 is really going for Arizona and not for Arizona State and Utah. Arizona, this one, Prigozhin says, Arizona has been willing to talk. Let's take them. They should get a full share. ASU and University of Utah can kick rocks. So that's pleasant. Okay. So there you go. We got a nice little meme here from Kadam. So what do you got here, Kadam? It bothers me that they're not answering the question. Okay. Well, what question you want them to answer, but I'm sure right now there's not a lot of answers to any questions. So we'll go back to the message boards here. Would the AAC consider West Coast schools again? Yeah. And Buck, good to see you here, buddy. Welcome. I don't see why not. Your Mark wants to stay at 18. I think you're right, Adam. I do. I think that maybe he calls it 14. I think that's a good number. You get north of 14. If there's anything that happens to the ACC, you're kind of messed up if you want to add schools. So I think Brett Newmark does want to stay at 14. He may just, that he may solve the Pac-12 problem by just saying we're not inviting anybody else. So maybe that's what they're considering. Adam, you would ask me if the AAC would consider West Coast schools. 100%. Michael Resco is a very aggressive commissioner, and I think he would be foolish not to consider putting together a West Coast situation. To be honest, the Pac-12 would be better off if they hired Michael Resco as the commissioner. to take over. But you could. That's a very interesting thing, Adam. If Oresco could take his conference and take on the additional pack, so that it would be, some sort of arrangement between those two, you could really have a good conference, a solid conference, frankly, and it would still stay an autonomous Power Five conference. So you may be onto something, Adam. You may be onto it. Let's see how that plays out. It's going to be a very fluid situation. Certainly, not just today, but for the next few days, at least till people decide what they're going to do. What would happen if G5 wants to become G5? You mean if the Pac-12 wanted to be a G5? Well, it's the way it works is it's called an autonomous 5 right now, which is the Power 5 autonomous 5. Autonomous means that you get an automatic bid to the national championship playoff. Okay, if you're not a Power 5, you have to you have to be one of, as you say, the G5 schools, right? The best top G5 school gets an invitation. That's to the playoffs. We saw Cincinnati get that and become, by the way, the first G5 school to do that a couple of years ago. I would think that if you've got the autonomous 5, if you're still a Power 5 conference, you wouldn't want to give that up. So maybe what you would do is, what you had said before, Adam, the deal would be to have the AAC consider putting together enough West Coast teams. Now, if they did it that way, it would be almost like a partnership. It couldn't be a merger because you'd have to go through all that garbage, but you could do a partnership and get it done. And then there wouldn't be any, necessarily, there wouldn't be any buyouts because you would be assigning a group of schools, to become the West Coast version of the AAC. And so, yeah, you could do that. Let's see, there's 14 schools in the AAC. If you had 6 left, you'd have 20. So you could do it. Which G5 conference gets the auto bid in 24? It always boils down to which is has got the highest ranking team. Okay, so for instance, the AAC has the past 2 years have had it because they had Cincinnati, which got into the playoffs a few years back, and then last year was Tulane. Remember, because Tulane beat USC in the Cotton Bowl. So it's been I'm trying to remember the last Mountain West school, Boise State, maybe Boise. I'm thinking. I think Boise State was the last Mountain West school to qualify for a G5 bid. Remember though, but there's that was for a New Year's Six day. How much do you think bowl postseason is worth? More likely, Oregon, Washington stay in the Pac-12. I think that had Oregon and Washington stayed in the Pac-12, their chances of getting into the playoffs would be much better than it's going to be in the Big Ten. Their chances in the Big Ten have gone drastically down. Just for the record, since 2010, which is 23 years ago, 13 years ago. No, yeah, thank you, 13. My statistician behind me let me know the 13 years. Thanks for the stats. 13 years ago, there hasn't been a team that has moved from one conference to the other that has won a national championship in football. So, Oregon and Washington, might be getting more money, but they're not going to get it. They would have gotten probably this, given now that they're taking a smaller percentage, it's quite possible they would have actually made more money staying in the Pac on that deal if they would have made it. Like what the Atlantic Sun and WAC, you know, and UAC did. Yeah, in a way, you're right. It would be moving a bunch of teams around. Adam, you're asking me about San Diego State. I think somebody asked me about that before, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they'll get invited, but it's up to them to have to pay to get out of their contract, which right now is, if I'm not mistaken, it's $34 million as a buyout. They could possibly negotiate that down. It's been done by a number of schools, but to what extent, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 20, 21, something like that. Like I said 19 before, but I don't think they get that far down, especially since they just, they had the opportunity and they didn't take it. So they'll probably get penalized a little bit for that and dinged a little bit. So I don't know if San Diego State is going to put up that kind of cash to go into a conference, to a Power 5 conference. I don't know. It may not even be worth it for them. They may be better off staying where they are and taking, getting an automatic bid in basketball. Maybe that's the way they go. I don't know. It's a lot of money, $20 million to join a conference. So we'll have to see, but from that standpoint, and we'll see if it's worth it to them. Let's jump on back to the other side of Twitter, seeing what's going on here. Wednesday are available. Says, why add Utah when Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington State are available? That's David Floyd. David, that's a good question. We talked about that a little bit. Okay, here's the deal. Cal and Stanford is not going to the Big 12. Not going to happen. Oregon State, Washington State, yeah, one of those two. We talked about, we got fans here from both Oregon State and Washington State. David, they could be going your way. That could happen if you don't want Utah. But don't think that Stanford and Cal are going. No, they're not going to the Big 12. Not going to happen. Let's see what else we got. Dennis Wilson and 13 others are following us. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Let's scroll down here. Wrigley Ute. He's not so sure they're going anywhere. Okay, so Wrigley Ute, I assume that's a Chicago graduate of the University of Utah. Not so keen on what's going on. Okay, let's see. You got to give credit. I've seen everywhere, everything as the biggest Utah hater on Twitter in every space. But see what hooray for Eric says. Arizona already has a full share. I know, Eric, we talked about that, but that's okay. Okay. Let's see if there's anybody else there. No, let's go back to the chat room. So could Apple pay for the buyout? It's not usually the way it works, Adam. I would have to see how that plays. Conferences are usually not allowed to do it, but media partners, I don't know. If they thought that there was that kind of value for them, they could, but I'm going to have to look into it, and I'll post something on Twitter when I find out. Adam, okay. Andovan, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize if I'm not. 25 million Apple plus other media plus bull money and not out of travel costs makes the deal look different than reported. That is true. I think that the situation with regard to Oregon and Washington was more of a status thing, that they wanted to be in the Big Ten, because you're right, the opportunity for them to make more money, and actually and we just talked about it a minute ago, for them to go and and succeed in a conference that was, not as deep with as many teams. I mean, the Big Ten is, you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, you got Penn State. Oregon and Washington, it's gonna be tough for them in that thing. Oregon, Washington State, Utah, those three, we're definitely going to duke it out, and we'll duke it out this year in the Pac-12. But it's nothing to, the amount of money that was being offered was not something you would have discounted, and especially as you put it there. If Oregon and Washington are gone, $25 million per team is gone. That's probably true, Mark. It's probably true, but what we don't know is how much, look, Apple wants college sports. Do they want to pay $25 million to Arizona State, Utah, Washington State, Stanford, Cal? Probably not. But what they probably can get is still better than what. Let's say for a second. Let's take this for a second and play it out. Let's play it out that the folks at, let's say for a second argument that the Big 12 decides they're going to play hardball. They're only going to pay $20 million per team. If you're Utah and Arizona State, are you going to move conferences for $3 million? Doesn't make sense. There's absolutely no plan that makes sense, because Apple will at least pay, right around 20, maybe 6, maybe even if it's 17. Okay, you're still going to do okay. So it would make sense. You're right that they're not going to pay 25, but they're reasonably, as I said, they want to be in the football space, and it's cheap at 15 to 18, 17. Any of those numbers, they could. That's not even. That's like 0.01 of their operating budget. So I can foresee them paying it, and we'll have to see. But it's really kind of wild. It's going to be a wild weekend for sure. It's going to be a wild week, but we'll have to see who's left. We don't know who's left at this point. They call. All right, they call. This is Johnny Jones. He says, Jim, they call 3 to the podium to be added to introduce Arizona, and the crowd cheers. Then they introduce Arizona State and advise they're happy to be cited. Join the crowd cheers. Then Yormack looks at Utah and tells them, hey, thanks for coming and have a good weekend. So basically, Johnny doesn't want Utah either. In the Big 12 seems to be a reoccurring thing here. What do we got, Simon? Come on, Simon. What do you got for me? We will see again, I believe, when they prove it. He thinks that he wants to see the deal before he thinks that everybody's gone. Okay, that's legit, Simon. David Grakes, what do you got for me? I don't see Berkeley and Stanford picking up the phone to a call to the Big 12. Daniel, I 100% agree with you. Have they ever applied yet? Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. PDT 816. So what do we got here? If Oregon and Washington, okay, no, we already got that question. Any other questions we got here, boys and girls? Let's see. Let's do the old refresh and see what we got on our lots of Twitter questions. Okay. Let's see what we got. Let's go to our. Let's see. Okay. Let's Adam Ritten at ESPN. What's going on, Adam? The line from today is, I can't stop thinking about, isn't it surprising, but it resonates and confirms how we got here. Was from a high-level source at the Big Ten school about the league's leading media partner and its role in latest expansion. They're running the conference, and he's speaking of Fox. So Fox, I guess, according to Adam Rittenauer, and Adam Rittenauer at ESPN says it's Fox who put up the cash for the Big Ten and their adding of their Oregon and Washington. So thanks to Adam for chiming in and giving us some good information. We appreciate Adam's input. Thank you, Adam, for that. Let's see if we got any more on the other side of the thing. Do you ever think San Diego State will apply to the Big 12? I think they will. They've had a chance. They had a chance twice to do that. They didn't do it because I think they thought they were going to go into the Pac-12. So, you know, if you are a G5 school right now, your best bet, perhaps at the moment, and perhaps for a long time, your only bet is going to try to get into the Pac-12, because they're going to need to backfill a lot. I don't think, if you got the Big 12 right now is playing with, they got 14 and they may not want to go to 16. They got two teams there that they could possibly get. Then remember, UConn's one that Brett Yormark wants. So that's, there's a lot of craziness going on here, boys and girls. So we'll have to see. But, I don't think that, I don't recall SDS ever applying for Big 12 status, invitation. I know that there was some talk that if the Pac passed on San Diego State, the Big 12 might go after them, but I don't think that's going to happen now that they got Arizona. There'd be no reason to do it. So, because they get that Western time zone and they don't have to, they've already got that paid for. So, to answer your question, Adam, I don't think that, I don't think that even if they did now apply, that they would be given an invitation. Let's go back to the message boards here, see what we got going on. A lot of people ask me the same thing, which is people applying. You go to accept an application when then you second mutually exclusive vote to approve the school's membership, which are you claimed happened. I'm not claiming any of that. Okay, you said last night, Jim, like 100 years ago, today in college landscape. That is absolutely correct. UCF Night Nation weighing in that last night was like 100 years ago, and he is absolutely correct. It seems like 1,000 years ago. Things change quickly, but no one knew it was going to change that quickly today. I know I didn't. Again, we don't know. There's a lot we still don't know, and we don't know where Arizona State's going. We don't know where Arizona's going. They've been offered they've been offered the opportunity to go to the Big 12, but we don't know that they've gone. They haven't accepted anything yet. Let's put it that way. We don't know what's happening to Arizona State, Utah in that regard. We don't know what's happening to Stanford. We don't know what's happening to Cal. We don't know what's happening to Washington or Oregon State. We don't know if the Pac-12 is going to hold together. We don't know whether all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed on the Oregon and Washington deal. So there's a lot of that we don't know. It's just an amazing amount of things we don't know right now, and so we're going to have to see, because right now there's way too much we don't know, and that's something we're going to have to check out. And we'll be looking right here, guys, for what your thoughts are. And it's fun to look at this and see what's going on, but there's a lot of people who are affected in this, and that's the sad part of all of it. And we'll see. But let me just sure we got that down. Just a little paperwork has to be done here. All right. And let's go back to the questions. All right. And let's see, Editin, what do you got here? When is moving Power 5 to Power 5 resulted in an on-field success? A&M, no. Nebraska, no. Colorado, no. Big East teams, no. No, as a matter of fact, I mentioned that for the last 13 years that none of the teams, not a single team who has moved has in any way, shape, or form been affected by, has won a championship. Not one of them. As a matter of fact, they've in many ways regressed. I mean, look at Nebraska. Nebraska's football team's terrible. And we're going all the way back to Miami. I mean, Miami joining the ACC was a disaster. So yeah, there's 13 years and nobody has succeeded in have they made more money? Yeah, but they haven't succeeded in taking home championships. So 100% agree with you, Editin. That's and again, if I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize. Andvan, so Editin. So that's, again, sorry if I mispronounced your name, but you're right. There hasn't been success at all from anybody who's made the transfer. It hasn't worked out. Get a sip of water here, guys. Okay, let's go back. We got a bunch of other stuff going on here. Let's see what we got. Okay. Always good to see David Riggs. What do you got for me, David Riggs? I think Arizona gets a full share. Others might learn about penalties for paralysis by analysis. So I guess David is trying to explain to me that if Arizona State and Utah do make the change, they'll be penalized by probably just getting a share of about $20 million. Okay. Friday edition of Fox Sports Radio today, the Hot Mic Show is coming up. Don't miss the guys from the Hot Mic Show on Fox. They're coming up in a few minutes, and they're both on YouTube as well as obviously on Fox Sports Radio. So your Fox Sports Radio outlet, or just getting there on that, shouldn't be trouble. Let's take a quick look at more of the message boards. Anything else going on? It's not looking good for Arizona State. So hang on, gang. We'll be wrapping this up here in just a minute. The Colonel's in the house. What you got for me, Colonel? Functionally the same vote as far as I'm aware. The conference pre-authorized your work to accept the application from Arizona. Should it come any vote after that is simply procedural. So I don't think anybody's arguing with that. If Arizona accepts, then Arizona will get, they'll get the opportunity. So, all right, gang, let's see what we got. One more quick question before we get out of here on a Friday. And it's been fun You guys have peppered me with questions here, which has been fun. It makes the time go a lot faster. It's been an hour and 7 minutes we've spent together here, so good deal. Okay, always good to have you. It's been fun. Join me anytime over the weekend on Twitter. I'll be around, and obviously we'll be starting our new show Monday or Tuesday. We're waiting to find out on that. It's Stream On, and it'll be a daily show, so you can come here and have fun. So that'll be great. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We will be back on Monday to do our soccer show, which comes on at 2 o'clock, and then look out for Stream On, which is becoming very, very soon. Until that, guys, have a good weekend. You can always hit me up on Twitter, and I'll try to answer any and all of your questions. Thanks for everybody who showed up today. A lot of folks here. So good to have you, and we will see you. See you on Monday. Have a good weekend, everybody.